Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Thomas T-Bird Canarian, and you are watching another Cinch Mailgun and Cinch Mailjet webinar. Got some amazing guests here today, and you know them, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Oh, first and foremost, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the accessibility in email and the EAA. What is the EAA? That is the European Accessibility Act. And that's coming live very soon. We'll talk about that date coming up. Let's see here. But I got some amazing people I want to talk about. First and foremost, it's kind of like the Brady Bunch in here. I'm trying to figure out where everyone is. We got people from the left to the right, all over the place. Let's start down the line, shall we? First and foremost, Nally Hayes, the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Mailgun. Nally, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. It's bright and early here in San Antonio, Texas, but it is nice and cool. It hasn't gotten super hot yet, so I'll take it. I'll take it.
We'll take it. We had a big chunk of rain come through last week, and we're still riding that vibe right now. So we're pretty happy about that, aren't we?
Yeah. My
All
grass
right.
is green, so
Yeah, exactly. It's we need it. We need it.
yes.
And moving down the line here, we're gonna head up to the Northeast Coast. Megan Bushhausen, our senior email developer for Cinch Mailgun and Cinch Mailjet. Megan, how you doing this morning?
I am doing good. It is cold here still, which is not good for my garden, but I'm doing good.
Maybe we can meet in the middle with some Texas heat and some northeastern cool
Send
air.
it this
That'd be
way. I
nice.
need it.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right, and then we're gonna head across the pond to France. Their afternoon right now, which are jealous because they get to wrap up their day sooner than we do. So,
Yeah.
representing the senior manager of engineering over at Mailjet, we have Marion DeVoe. Marion, how you doing this afternoon over there?
Hi everyone. I'm fine, super fine. The weather is great here in France. I'm in Normandy. We are supposed to have rain, but today that's really sunny, so perfect weather.
Oh, lucky. Let's swap locations. Maybe I can enjoy it over there a little bit more. We're good to have you, Marion. Good to see you. Good to see you. Just gonna give a quick call out to some of our viewers in here. Looks like we got some people from the Netherlands, Belgium, Barcelona, Greece. I saw some Texans in here as well. Good to see you. Copenhagen, London, love it, love it. Someone was calling out my 12-string guitars. Maybe later. And also Portugal. So good to see everyone in here. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a primarily European topic today, but we've got all these amazing guests. So also, really quick, want to talk about our back end team really quickly. We've got Em Blitzstein representing the blog content side and Mailjet side as well in the house. She'll be dropping some amazing content pieces in there that we can support you in these times. And also, we want to give a quick shout out to Jesus and Relena helping answering questions on behalf of Mailgun and Mailjet in the back end. So massive shout out to them. All right. So what were we talking about again? That's the main topic, the accessibility in email and the European Accessibility Act. So, all right. And we obviously talked about ourselves, all that fun stuff. So let's get to that agenda really quick. So we'll talk about what is the European Accessibility Act, what you need to know about it. Number two, why you should send accessible emails. Megan's going to be bringing us some awesome best practices that she always knows. And number three, we'll be talking about what do you need to do to prepare for the European Accessibility Act. And then we'll talk about, what is Cinch email doing about this whole thing. And then my favorite part towards the end, it's Q&A time for Q&A. I also want to give a quick shout out. Some people were asking, hey, are we going to see this recording later on? Yes. If you come back here in about an hour after Goldcast, and also keep an eye out in your inboxes, we'll also send you the recap for this webinar. So do not worry, ladies and gentlemen. And in that recap, we'll be able to see all these slides and stuff like that. So, all right, Nally, I think she's going to talk about what is the European Accessibility Act.
Yeah, for sure. So howdy, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Let's just kind of give a brief overview of the European Accessibility Act. I know a lot of people here might already know, but for some people, especially maybe US-bound people, they might not be aware of what the European Accessibility Act is or the EAA. So let's talk about it. So what is it? The European Accessibility Act, or the EAA, you'll kind of hear that used interchangeably, is a directive from the European Union that was approved in 2019, but it is going into effect at the end of this month on June 28th, 2025. So don't panic, right? I know that that sounds like a really, really close state. Promise, don't panic. Luckily for everyone here, a lot of different providers across the email industry are doing things to make sure that one, you guys are okay. You can do all of your email Q&A, us included, on both the Mailgun and the Mailjet side. We're making sure that people will be a-okay. But also, it's kind of one of those things where even though it is going into effect on the 28th, and you should absolutely be meeting that date if you can, typically fines will kind of have a bit of a grace period, right? It's not like you turn this on and then suddenly everyone's getting hit with fines. So just be aware. Always be mindful. That's kind of a life mantra to have as well. So, but with that said, these requirements do need to be met by businesses who are doing business with anybody in the EU, especially as it comes to visual media or media that can be consumed via a phone. So what does that mean? If you are sending email to the EU from the EU, then you need to be meeting these standards. So luckily, a lot of the standards that are outlined are pretty standard already within the email industry. So there are some things that are going to be new, but a lot, if you're already kind of doing your due diligence, you'll be okay. For US senders, and this is kind of like a shout out to my people who've been in email for longer than the average bear. This is kind of very reminiscent to the prep work for GDPR back in 2018. I was first hired onto Mailgun during that, being a little shocked, being a little kind of taken aback by all the prep that needed to be done. But it was one of those things where when the time came, everyone was ready to go. I think this is going to be pretty much the same. So going to feel very similar to that. It's like same, but different. So something to think about. But I think what's more interesting and more important is why you should already be sending accessible emails. And I will pass it over to Megan.
Thank you, Natalie. That was a great rundown of EAA. And if you want more info, our podcast that Thomas produces, Email's Not Dead, we also have a whole episode on this. So once you are done with this webinar, go listen to that episode for even more information. So let's talk about some accessible email, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So some really important stats that I think people should know. According to the World Health Organization, we have an estimated 1.3 billion people who have disabilities, and that is about 16% of the world population. 4.6 billion of those users use emails. So around 736 million email users have disabilities based on us doing a bunch of math. So it could be more, it could be less. My caveat with numbers like this, it's a good estimation, but you also have to keep in mind of what we are considering a disability here. So a lot of times when we think about disabilities in email, we're thinking about visual disability, maybe some motor skills that may be missing, those sorts of things. Often left out of the disability talk are things like cognitive disabilities. So ADHD, dyslexia, auditory processing, all those types of disabilities get left out. And what is also often left out are people who may be in countries that often aren't counted. So countries that often don't have as much money. So it usually will come down to those sorts of things. So we can assume that this number is actually higher. And we can assume that some people have permanent disabilities and some people will have not permanent disabilities, temporary disabilities. So one example we'll give for accessibility is people with low vision or no vision, because these stats are just easier to get. The studies have been done on blind users. So around 36 million people are blind, and 82.3% of them have issues with screen readers on websites. And if they're having issues with screen readers on websites, and that's what these studies have been done on, not so much on email, it's a lot harder to get these stats for email specific. We can assume that these 29-ish million people are also having issues with email. So if we are not taking these people, this cohort of people into account, we're leaving over $59 million on the table. So if you're thinking just in terms of money and ROI and stuff, you're leaving a lot on the table by not taking accessibility into account, on top of it just being the right thing to do with sending accessible email. So what do we need to do to prepare? I'm going to go over some high level things with email accessibility, mostly design related, so that no matter if you're using a drag and drop editor, visual editor, coding, you can do these things. I'm leaving out some of the more technical aspects of accessible email. I've talked extensively about code and whatnot, but we're not going to talk about that here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our visual hierarchy, which is just a fancy way of saying how we organize visual information. And this newsletter in particular is one that I use often because it's text-based and has lovely visual hierarchy. So here are the 3 images. We can take a look at it real quick just so you can see it all together. And let's talk about what's great about this email. It's good semantic structure, basically just meaning we have headers and body text and CTAs and images all laid out in a way that makes sense to the user and you can easily scan it. The body text is sized appropriately. For your body text for email, you want it at a minimum of 16 pixels. Our color contrast seems pretty good. That text is left aligned. I'll talk about that more in a moment. And the CTA stands out. Things that I would change: when I had originally checked this email, there was no alt text on the images, which is a big no-no. And I personally would make the padding and the CTAs larger to make it easier to tap on mobile. So let's talk about that left aligned text. This is another email I really like to use. So this is one that when I originally saw it, the email all the way to the left is our original email. All that text is left aligned and it's 2 large paragraphs. That can make it really hard to read. The reason why we left aligned our text is because it gives your eye a consistent place to go and read the email. If you look at the center text, your eye is jumping around everywhere. It can make it hard to follow the lines and you can easily lose your space. So I decided to do a really quick redesign. Nothing major, small little adjustments. So our middle image are the first adjustments I made. So we just took the 2 paragraphs, aligned it to the left. They are still 2 very big paragraphs, which can still make it hard to scan and read. So I decided, what would it look like if we broke it up into smaller chunks? And the one on the right is the final result, which we saw initially on that little title slide. So in my opinion, it is much easier to read when they are broken up into smaller chunks and left aligned. And then you can easily get your information off to people and they can understand it, read it, and action on it. Let's talk about contrast next. I think this is one that people often miss the mark on, including myself. So I'm going to tell a story about this specific email. So this email looks very high contrast. You got the green there and the purple there. I always have stories, T-Bird. And the yellow. And to my eye, yeah, this is pretty good contrast. But if I went and took those values and put them into the WCAG color editor, and WCAG is the organization that runs a lot of the accessibility standards, it actually fails by a pretty wide margin. And if we look at what these different emails look like in the different versions of color blindness, this is what we get. And like you can kind of see it. I think it really becomes a problem on the total black and white. So the first 2 are red, green color blindness. The third one is a yellow, blue color blindness. And the last one is total. And oh my gosh, Simon, thank you so much. No, that's really good for me to know you had trouble with it. So you see, this is where taking accessibility into your mind. I have the chat open, which is something I almost never do when I'm presenting, but I'm glad I have it this time. It's really good to know. I'm sorry that happened, but I also want to show that even people who talk about accessibility all the time mess it up. And we always have more to learn and always have more to get better with. So what I did with this email before this presentation is I went in and found a color for a border that would give us the contrast that we needed to make it easier. And when I started flipping between the two, which I'll do right now, I noticed that that button was so much easier to see when I just simply added that border. And all I did there was put that yellow color into the WCAG contrast checker, and they have a lightness slider, and I just slid that slider down until on the graphical interface, I got it to acceptable and that it was passing. One thing to note is that WCAG has been working on new standards, and they're not out yet, but right now everything's on a pass-fail basis, and now it's going to be more on a scale. There's more to come on that. It's not finalized, but I was reading about it recently, and it's very interesting. It just stumbled over my words there. My brain's moving faster than my mouth. So I would definitely start looking that stuff up to see what's going on in the accessibility world and what the website of accessibility is working on, because that'll filter down to email for sure. So let's leave that where it is, contrast, and let's talk about some alt text. So I'm going to use that same email, and it might be small on your screen just from the nature of doing screenshots, but the alt text on my emails pretty much always describe the actual image, which is how alt text is supposed to be used. And this is where we're going to talk a little bit about e-com emails a little bit, and when you do like a full image email versus images and text. So I heavily do images and text. I think in SaaS, it's easier to do that than e-com. I know e-com likes to heavily use images, and I do have an example of that. But you can see here what the email looks like with the image versus without the image. And if there is no image with just the alt text, you can see that this email still works really well. Oh, just try to use my keyboard and I cannot. Let's hit that arrow button. All right, so here's an e-com example that I grabbed off of the front page of Really Good Emails. They have a lot of beautiful emails that go on there that are complete images. So on this one, it does not describe the image, it gives you the offer. And if I were to do this email and make changes, I would not have made this all images. I personally would have layered the background image over underneath a box and would have made a lot of this text live text so that somebody could still read it and it could still be read easily by a screen reader, because our either low vision or no vision users or somebody whose images just aren't loading are losing a lot of the experience of the email with how this alt text is written. Now, does it technically work? Yes. Not being used, though, for what alt text is meant for, which is to describe the actual image. Alt text is not there to shove offers into. It's there to describe the image. So I will say the thing that I've been saying for ages: your images should enhance your email. It should not be your email. So ecom, love you guys. You make gorgeous emails. I highly recommend finding a way to combine images and live text so you can get the best of both worlds. It is possible with a little bit of thought and maybe a little bit of upfront work for those email design systems and whatnot.
This was awesome, Megan. Actually, Thomas, if you could go back a second. So it's interesting, and I just like bringing like relevant like things that we're talking about. So there was a big conference a couple of weeks ago, called Inbox Expo, and we actually there was a really good keynote on like trends or things that are happening like currently within the email industry, things that people are testing. And something that I think stood out to me that I think is important to mention is how to come up with that alt text, and something that I think is worth calling out, especially as people kind of use AI more and more. Do not use AI for alt text. This is something that I think is just kind of important to make a mention of. Not that, you can't use it in other areas of your workflows, but typically what happens is AI will get it wrong. You can, of course, always edit it, right? Add that human touch. But it's important to just kind of remember to consider that way ahead in advance. Don't lean on it too much. So just wanted to call that out really quick because it was right here at the end. I felt it was worth mentioning. So the latest and greatest from the email industry, if you will. But that said, what are we doing about it? So everyone kind of across the email industry, right, is coming up with different ways on the ESP side to make sure that our customers are able to approach this change appropriately and also kind of without fear. So we'll talk a little bit about what Mailgun is doing and then what Mailjet is doing at the same time. So it's a bit of what we're doing on this side of the house, but understand that if you already have a provider and you're not looking to switch, it's always important to go looking into your own resources and seeing what they're going to provide. If they aren't going to be able to meet those needs and they're important to you, then that's when it's important to start considering alternate solutions. So bear with me a little bit as we talk about this. So what's Mailgun done for me lately? Which is something I say often to just kind of help people out. So we are essentially bringing the latest and greatest from email and asset and bringing it directly onto the Mailgun platform with Mailgun Inspect, which is, I'm sure if you were at the last Deliverability Academy, you heard Thomas and I make a couple of like elbow yuck kind of jokes about something inspecting coming soon. This is that. Welcome, Mailgun Inspect. So we're bringing a lot of the tools that are known and loved on email and asset over to Mailgun. And with that, we will be providing access to over 40 accessibility checkpoints as a part of the Inspect offering. So a lot of these accessibility checkpoints check not only for the EAA, but also the WCAG, which is always a difficult acronym for me to say, but that is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for those of you who want the full name. So we will be checking against things like a lot of things that Megan actually just mentioned before. So color and contrast accessibility, code configuration for screen readers, alt text, seizure reaction accessibility, keyboard accessibility, input assistance, all of that good stuff. Really anything that especially more closely aligns with the 2.2 version of WCAG. I don't know if I'm saying that right or if the industry has decided a different way.
WCAG. We like saying WCAG.
WCAG.
Shout out to Jay Oram for
Shout
all
out
his.
to Jay. Jay's in the
Yeah.
chat. We say
It's-
WCAG.
It's one of
WCAG.
it's one of those
That's what
things
we're
where
doing.
I've read. It's one of those words that you read a lot and then you're like, am I saying it right? And it hasn't been until right now where I've had to say it out loud. So sorry about that, guys. Oh man. But yeah, so WCAG, and with that, it will also be able to check against a lot of the same things that the EAA is checking for. So really good stuff there. Yes, WAG. For all the 40K fans out there, big nerds. It's all good. So that said, Mailgun Inspect is one of those. It's kind of our latest and greatest that we're putting on the Mailgun platform. And going forward, right, both within accessibility and outside accessibility, we want to add more features to this that are going to kind of help the overall QA cycle of email long term. So we're looking at content spam filtering, code analysis, all of that good stuff. Other things on Inspect are also going to be image and link validation. So it's not like you're only getting like bits and pieces. These are already kind of baked into it. And what's great is that it has an API element, and we are currently going through the beta of the UI element within Mailgun. So whatever way you want to implement it into your workflow, you will have that capacity. But I've yapped a lot about Mailgun, which is something I do. It is a part of my job, but also what I do, I guess, in my free time, which sounds silly now that I say it. But now it's time to talk a little bit about Mailjet, and I will pass that over to Marion.
Yeah, and yeah, Mailjet is my work, so it's easy to talk as well. I'm not able to pronounce WCAG, so maybe it's because I'm not native English speaker, but yeah. Anyway, I'll say WCAG if I need to pronounce it. Yeah, but coming back at Mailjet, so first, yeah, we simplify the compliance. even if the accessibility will remain your responsibility as a marketer, as a designer, etc. At Mailjet, the email we generated within the Mailjet drag and drop editor use accessibility code behind the scene. So you don't need to think about the HTML attribute length that will be displayed for you. Same, we discussed a lot about the alt. So obviously you need to configure within the app, but it will be configured on the HTML email sent the way you set it on the platform. For the what we call the expert editor. So if you want to write HTML or MJML directly within the platform, it will remain your call to apply the standard. But yeah, with every resource we provided and everything we already discussed, you should be able to do it. We've been also working to increase the customer education. We updated and we continue to review the documentation around this topic, making sure everything is accurate for you. But we also started to add guidance and tips for in-app to follow the compliance standards. The two topics on the bottom are quite what about coming next. So we want to go deeper in accessibility, providing new feature set that will be directly integrating into our drag and drop editor. And the content checking and the validation checkpoint from what Natalie said with Mailgun Inspect will be directly integrating in app as well. And the last point is the fact that we also want the platform available for everyone by making Mailjet fully accessible through incremental releases and improvement. So good things to come. And moreover, we also dedicated lots of time to train and mentor all our developers in all the accessibility best practices to make sure it's not just a concern for a few people, but a general mindset. And same, I think it was Simon who speak the fact that he was colorblind, but we also have someone within the team who is colorblind. So that's also useful to detect all of that and yeah, making sure everything is accurate on Mailjet side. And now I think we can recap everything related to this topic.
A good recap. Let's all take it back in, shall we? Also, I just want to give a quick shout out. I know we're getting some reports that the some of the Mailjet blogs are unfortunately not loading. So just give us a little time, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll get that up and running. But thanks for bearing with us on that. We appreciate you. But all right, Nally and I are actually let's take a look at all the things that we just talked about because there was a lot of good stuff. So
Yes.
I'll take this first one here. Yeah, so preparing for the EAA enforcement, that European Accessibility Act. Now is a great time for a refresh, so don't forget about refreshing. Begin with your highest touch templates first, and if you're missing one, apply a brand kit to your email designs. And I'll let Nally take this next one.
For sure. So after you've kind of checked your existing templates, and again, like what's important, and I say this because this is also what we do at Mailgun, so a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Check your highest touch templates first. The ones that your customers are going to see the most, make sure that you are checking those for accessibility first. Don't, it might be very tempting to start alphabetically and go down or by date and go down. High touch first, then move on. But then the next thing is also just like testing workflows. So what is your current QA look like for your emails? Do your designers have something in place? Do you know about it? Should you know about it? These are just kind of some questions that are worth asking. I more than sure that if you have an email team that you're working with, they are doing some sort of QA, but you might not know about it. And this is actually a really good time to talk to your email team and just see like, hey, how does your guys' workflows work? Do you mind taking some time to show me? Have we thought about EAA? I'm sure this is on your guys' radar. I just want to make sure. It doesn't need to be an interrogation, right? I'm not saying go out there and corner your email developers and designers about their jobs. But I am saying it's always kind of nice to know what your coworkers are doing. This is one of those instances, right? And right, say you have a business where they're like, no, actually, I had no idea, right? Or this is news to me. Great. It's knowledge sharing. We love to see it. So doing that first and foremost is really great. But then also, if you don't already, have some sort of outline about where QA fits into your email development process. Even if you don't have it written down, or you know where it is, or you know how your workflows work. If you are that email designer who could be getting cornered by someone else who also saw this webinar, it's always nice to have those sort of processes written down for stakeholders. Even if it's just a quick page that's like, hey, here's how the workflows work, here's how the timing works, here's how our general deployment plays out. Hey, people love that. So having it ready is a great way to just kind of say, hey, we've done our due diligence, and it makes you look good too. So something to think about. Do you want me to handle the going forward piece too, Thomas, or do you want to take it?
Yeah, for sure. And also too, I was gonna ask if Megan wanted to touch, and Marianne, if they wanted to
Oh,
add
yeah.
anything else to these reinforcements. I was gonna let Megan go first.
I would say if you don't have like an email design system in place yet, now is probably a really good time to start thinking about that and designing it. Because if maybe you're a little light on the accessibility stuff, an email design system is a really great way to build it all in, so you don't have to be doing emails from scratch every single time. And then all your good practices for everything are all baked right in, and it makes your QA go a lot more quickly.
Love it.
Very nice.
Marianne, anything else to add on the reinforcement?
No, lots of stuff already been said. So yeah, no, use WCAG as source of truth for everything. There's more and more tools to check your templates. So use them. You can cross also the results to make sure everything is compliant. So yeah, definitely use the tool that are proposed on the web.
Awesome. And then, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, just make sure going forward, making sure your brand's doing everything you can do to become more accessible for your entire audience. I gave an example about this actually on our Emails Not Dead podcast, but I saw this on Reddit, and there was a gentleman that was actually blind and that was attending NBA games here in the States. But they've actually developed a technology where he can actually understand everything that is going on the court. So that reminded me, it's like, why are we not doing this for everybody? It's like there's so many more people that we're missing out that could be reading and understanding our emails. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, we should be doing this in general. So make sure you're building that accessibility into your roadmap. So, but I've got a moment here for everybody. Let's all say this together. EAA is going into enforcement on June 28th, 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Say it together with me. June 28th, 2025.
2025. Is that what you wanted, Thomas?
Yes. Everybody, remember this date. It's coming.
It's
June
coming.
28th. Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the front so we can all hear this. So June 28th. Do not forget this. So all right.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah. So we're getting some love for it in
Thank
the
you, Trinidad.
Yeah.
You are always looking out for me.
Yeah.
For
June
Thomas.
28th. But all right, awesome. Looks like we got some time for some questions here. I was gonna give if Megan and Marion want to add anything before we get going here into this Q&A session.
Let's do Q&A.
All right, sounds good to me. All right, moving on here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So, favorite time of the day. We're all gonna take a look at these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please upvote the questions that you want answered the most so we can get to these. And we're gonna take a look. So let's see here.
I'll actually open.
Go ahead.
Because I know a lot of people in chat are really concerned about the website not being able to see the blog posts and so on and so forth. Don't worry. We created a web page that has also a lot of resourcing and documents on both the Mailgun and the Mailjet side. A lot of the blogs that we've been linking are going to be linked on that landing page, and we will be emailing it to you. So once our website starts, having a bit of a tummy ache, as a fellow tummy ache survivor myself, I always bounce back and I'm a lot better once I have time to kind of relax. But all of that will be available to you. So don't stress. I promise we'll be able to figure it out. And it's currently getting solved on our end in the background. We just don't like, broadcasting that from time to time. But I know it makes me feel better. So I want to make sure you guys feel better too. But okay, now we can go to questions. Sorry.
All good. Okay, let's see here. Moving through these. Okay. So this is a really good one that I thought this one's coming to us from Rachel. She asked, is EAA applicable if you send to customers in the region versus being a company in that region?
Yes. Yes. So this is kind of very again, it's almost like the same but different from GDPR. If you are sending to people in the EU, you need to make sure that you're following GDPR guidelines. This is very similar, right? If you have any sort of email recipients who are in the EU, your emails need to be accessible. That's just kind of the long and short of it. Marianne, Megan, I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
Yeah, it applies to anybody who lives in the EU worldwide. So if they live in the EU and they're visiting the United States, for example, still applies to them like with GDPR. It applies to EU citizens worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide Email.
Yeah,
Mr. Worldwide Email.
I think
I could call
another example, someone was just asking in the chat, someone was asking like, so if I send from the US, will I not get fined? It's like, well, if you're sending email to the EU.
Yeah, and this is
Right.
also like I feel like sometimes people will kind of like try to cherry pick a little bit like, well, but I don't think I sent to anybody in the EU. Regardless, there are people with disabilities in the United States as well who would greatly benefit from having accessible emails. So even if you aren't sure who's on your email list, I wouldn't leave it to chance. Like as a marketer myself, no, I don't want to leave it to chance. I just want it to already be compliant. And as someone who has a hard time reading large chunks of text due to a disability myself, really helpful when you follow those guidelines. So just
Also,
Yeah, and
I love. Go ahead.
said if somebody has citizenship in the EU and they live in the US, even if you're a US company sending to US based subscribers, it still applies to them because they have citizenship in the EU.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that accessibility is not just I want to avoid a fine or this is not applicable to me. Once again, like Natalie said, that's for everyone. There's this disability everywhere in the world. So the better your email are, the better it is for everyone.
Yep.
Exactly, Mary. Just make it accessible. Just these little tips.
Be,
follow.
Just be nice. Be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Rachel, for that one. We appreciate that. Let me go to mark that one answered. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, cool. Moving down the line here, and if my speakers, if y'all see one before I do, go ahead and call it out.
I have one that I think that's upvoted pretty high that I think has a really fast answer, actually. Frank asks, what are the rules of the EAA? So funny thing you asked, Frank, because they don't give us rules. It just says our emails have to be accessible, which is a little bit annoying on our part, but it just says accessible emails. And they say that it applies to B2C companies. So if you're selling to a consumer or your end user is a consumer, so B2C or B2B2C, it applies. It does not apply to business. So it has to be a consumer and just says your emails have to be accessible. They don't say in which way it has to be accessible. It just says it has to be accessible, which is why we are continually and consistently going over these standards of accessibility. Because if you are following these standards of accessibility, you will be fine under the EAA. If you're already sending accessible emails, you literally have nothing to worry about. You're doing great. Maybe see if there's some places you can improve, because we all can improve, as I showed in this webinar, even myself. But you will be fine if you are sending accessible email. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah,
and Megan, that's also too why we've been following these WCAG guidelines, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you follow those guidelines, you're good. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that's like to add like the more technical question to it. If you are not familiar with WCAG, go visit their website and go look at the overview of the latest version. If you've never heard it before in your life, now is the time to go and look at WCAG and make sure that you are in compliance with their standards. Pretty much everybody refers to WCAG. So that is a really, really good starting place. And I would love to have a whole webinar where we go over all of that, but we would be here for hours.
And I think
be
people would get bored.
and everyone would get bored because it's very dry. It's important, but it is a lot of information. So I recommend going through that on your own time when you can. But a lot of like the big hitters were what Megan went over today. So
yeah.
Cool. Hope that helped.
Good one. Thanks, Frank, for asking that one. Thanks, Frank, for calling in. All right, so moving down the line here. Let me see. We talked about region. Trying to see here.
So many questions. Sorry, give us a second.
I love it. It's great when
know.
people have questions. It's the worst when you get to the end of something like this and then everyone's like, nope, we're not going to ask questions.
We
So
have
thank you,
no-
everybody, for asking questions.
But now we don't know which one to choose.
I know,
know.
there's so many. Megan, yeah, I think you're gonna have to pick one because all of these.
Yeah, I'm seeing. Okay, I'm just gonna start going down the list of like design related stuff. I see one about 16 pixel minimum rule is going to make our emails a lot longer. Could the text be smaller, or everything needs to be 16 pixel minimum? Everything pretty much needs to be a 16 pixel minimum. Some people will make your footer a little bit smaller. There's no reason to make it smaller. Some people will go as small as 12 pixels on a footer. I don't recommend that because it can make your unsubscribe link harder to find. And you do want people to easily unsubscribe because if they can't, they might start marking your emails as spam, which will tank your open rates and your conversion. So you don't want that. So 16 pixel minimum. If your emails are getting too long, which I know can happen in languages that are not English. Like I've put together the, German emails, and those emails, some of those words and phrases are so long. You might have to just rethink how you write some of that copy, but it really, really should be a minimum of 16 pixels. The emails will be so much easier to read. And I know this from experience, bumping things up even from 14 pixels to 16 pixels. It just makes those emails way easier to read and understand.
Yeah, definitely.
And there you have it, folks.
I saw this one too. Is this EAA obligatory and will be monitored by vendor algorithms? Will the open
That's an interesting one.
Yes. So this is kind of one of those things where, as to the inner machinations of the EAA and how they go through and they monitor those things, a lot of it is done by reporting. So someone can report you for this kind of thing. It happened with GDPR. I promise you it will happen for EAA. It might take a little bit of time, but it will occur, and then people will be fined. Now, the more interesting part of this question, I think, is will the open rate be lowered or something in case it is not followed? So I will say this: if your emails are broken or do not look good or simply are too long, if they look like spam, which a fully accessible email, yes, could still potentially look like that. But if they look like spam, inbox service providers will mark you as such. So this is kind of a nice little sort of deliverability tidbit. Just go ahead and make them accessible, because then it also means that you have a more well-designed, more thoughtful email, which is less likely to end you in the spam folder just based on content alone. So just something to think about. This can impact your deliverability if you decide to just like go hog wild and not follow anything. You won't land in the inbox. I can't promise you that, but I could promise you that kind of thing, sort of. You get it.
Tell him. Oh,
I
man.
try to not be like too forceful, but also just think about these things before you press send, please. I beg.
Exactly. It's like someone was asking in the chat, if there's no published rules or standards, how can they enforce? And it's like, well, that's why we're telling you about this now, please.
It's very nebulous. I know.
Well, and what
Ugh.
will happen is they will likely point to WCAG and go, this has existed forever. Why haven't you looked at it? And
Exactly.
then you're the silly Billy who didn't follow the rules. And I don't want that for anybody here in this.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah, someone just said, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure the enforcement will be enforced in a few years as well. So be ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone just said too in the chat, like, it's best to just have proof that you even tried and you did your due diligence, which is
Yeah.
like, please, just, yeah, give it the old
Yeah.
try.
All right. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
for sure. Just going through there. Some of these have really quick answers too. Which screen readers do we that are recommended? There are two major screen readers that are used on Apple. VoiceOver is built in, and on Windows, it's JAWS. They will read emails differently, which makes this all tricky also. Like if you're coding emails, you probably have heard of ARIA labels and a couple of other code things that you can do. And one screen reader will pick up on the ARIA labels and another one won't. So you need to test and see what's picking up where. There is no perfect in accessibility in email. There's just doing the best we can. So you can check both those out if you have access to both kinds of machines. I can say if you're not used to using them, they're really hard to use because they're not built for people who can see. So I just want to put that out there. I've seen people use like the Apple accessibility tools who have lower vision really, really well, where I struggle with it with my glasses on because I just have no idea how to actually use them, and they're not built for someone like me. All right, the next one I see here is with left aligning text. Some accessibility forums mention that the direction attribute equals LTR, which means left to right, needs to be declared. So if you don't have that direction attribute declared, it does not default to left to right. It just is not declared. So if you need to put it in a template and you don't want to declare left to right or right to left, put UND instead. That means undefined. That's your next best option. Better to have that than nothing at all. A lot of ESPs or their visual editors don't have a direction attribute in their code. Maybe they'll do it one day. Follow the Email Markup Consortium. They are the ones primarily doing the work for the push for accessibility in the email space.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Joe, for that one. Moving down the line here. Megan, we're following you.
Yeah, following me. How do you change the mind of a company? Give them the stats. Start telling them how much money they can lose, honestly. We quoted money in this webinar. Look up the stats. They exist. If they believe they're losing money, maybe they'll change their mind. You could also look at the emails and see what's the easiest thing to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you add some headers, or maybe you have to left align some text, and you can show that the design isn't changed so much, and just start making those changes slowly. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. Find the easiest things to change and change them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like to Megan's point, like the money aspect of this, they are leaving money on the table, right? Like you could have the coolest brand ever in existence, and if your emails are not accessible, if you're not doing anything to get into compliance, one, you're going to get fined. So there's that money piece. You're going to have to pay somebody for being out of compliance. But also, when you leave out such a significant segment of your audience, you are hurting your business. Like if we want to talk about this from a capitalism perspective, right? You are leaving money on the table, and that's like as a marketer, like why on earth would you do that? It makes no sense to me. So as Megan said, like reference some of the numbers that we listed here, right? And again, we will be sending a recording of this. Feel free to send them this webinar, or even just like pull snippets from it. Leaving that kind of money on the table, but also ostracizing and leaving out an audience only looks bad on your business, not anybody else. So just something to consider, and something to take to these clients who are being too stubborn.
And you can also try to use a screen reader with the company and say, hey, are you able to understand what's happening? So now we need to change.
Yeah, and M just dropped that number we were talking about earlier. Globally, 1.3 billion people live with some form of disability, and then 736 million are email users. I mean, that's
a lot.
concrete enough. Yeah.
That's
All right. Cool. Okay, moving down the line here, shall we? Okay. Megan,
Yeah.
I'm mixing up my people. Let's see here. Yeah, tons of design questions here.
Yeah. I'm kind of going through a bunch of them. I see one about level A being enough for EAA enforcement. Probably, but you really should try to go for AAA. Or not AAA, AA. AAA is the best. I think most people try to get AA. AA should be your minimum. AAA is best. Sometimes I think AAA can be hard and a little bit unrealistic. So go for AA.
Love it.
And what resources can we use to test our emails? Email on Acid, the company we work for, has all accessibility features in there. You could start up a free trial and check it out. There's unlimited previews, which is better than a lot of other similar services and can be pretty affordable to say the freelancer or to the company for like a single seat if you need it. So check that out. Great things in that tester to make sure everything looks good. How important is it to have the lang attribute? Okay, so that's an interesting. Don't browsers and screen readers to detect the body copy language nowadays? So that's really interesting because if there is no language attribute, the email will not be spoken with the correct accent. So like if Marianne got an email in French and needed to use a screen reader and the French language attribute was not in there, the French would be read to her with an American accent, which could potentially be unintelligible to her because it's French with an American accent. Whereas if the French attribute was in there, then it would be spoken to her and read out with a French accent. So that's why that gets really important. Because it'll default to your system language. With not the correct, so like, yeah, not the correct accent.
It's like if I tried to speak French to Marianne, which I don't wish that on her or anyone else.
And funny because by the way, no one here is able to say Marion, which is the correct pronunciation. So
right, I can't even make
it so.
Right, or imagine if I was in France or something and like I got an email being read out to me in English with a heavy French accent, right? That one that I'm not familiar with. I might not be able to understand it.
Oh man, gotta love these real life examples. That's what makes us all human.
That's what helps.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a few minutes left for some questions, so let's make these count. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm seeing some other ones. I feel like we've hit a lot of these other questions. How can I'm looking at Jay, why are you asking me questions? You know everything. Hold on. Jay, you wrote a lot. Wanted to ask the background color in button contrast. Oh, for anyone being like, oh, Megan, why are you talking this way? Me and Jay are friends. I just want to say that.
Yeah. He's a homie. He's a homie.
Jay's a real one.
Color and contrast. And the guidelines doesn't need to have position or style, which I would say it does, but I think the way. Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Jay. I think it's talking to people, right? We just need to find the people to talk to, diversify our friend groups, find people in the industry to talk to. That's really, the only way. Our tools can only do so much, right? So like, I'm so thankful that, Simon earlier said something about the email camp emails, because I probably would have never known that otherwise. I have checked contrast on things with other people who are like friends of friends who are colorblind to make sure things are contrasted correctly. Another example I give is our Mailjet purple that we use on all of our emails. I was doing white text, purple background. It was failing in WCAG, which is a known issue with the current standards. A lot of times, like white on brighter colors. Well, I don't want to say bright, but like kind of brighter colors sometimes fail when the contrast is actually good because of the luminosity, which is just like, I can't even really explain it. It's just how the color contrasts are that it'll fail WCAG, but it's actually okay. The new standards are taking this into account. And I actually had somebody that I know send it to a friend who was colorblind to make sure they could still read it easily. And I sent a couple of options and they said that the white on purple was fine. So I really do think it's, finding those people and those resources. Ideally, and I don't know if this would ever happen, I've heard people advocate for it, is that you would companies would hire accessibility advocates to look at things and with different types of disabilities, or who can test for different types of disabilities to make sure it all looks good, works correct, because again, the tools can only catch so much and we're always, adjusting and learning more.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is there are a lot of advocacy groups out there who are working towards like better accessibility for different disabilities. So that's, and I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but Google is a resource, and being able to just look up color blindness advocacy groups, and then typically they have those resourcing, and even if they don't, send them an email, like actually reach out and go, hey, like I would really like to make the emails that my business is sending more accessible for people who are colorblind. Do you have any resources that you recommend, or where do you think is a good place to start? If it were me, I would die to get an email like that, right? For like the different groups that I work with outside of work. Like those are the kind of emails I love answering. Those are the kind of people I want to talk to. Seek to understand, educate yourself, go find those advocacy groups. They will be more than happy to help you out and give you some guidance, I promise.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the overall theme of this webinar is communicate better.
Yeah.
We're all in the communication space, right? And we're trying to continue to communicate to people across the world and our ever growing larger and smaller world as it seems to fluctuate. But it's like overall, let's just try and communicate better. Communicate to your brand managers. Communicate to your leaders. Look, let's get on board. Let's get on board this WCAG EAA choo-choo train. All right. So I think it's the best way. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, first and foremost, we got to thank our amazing speakers for joining us this morning and afternoon. And let me see if I can get this slide question to come off the screen. There we go. Stop sharing. First and foremost, Megan, you're going to be busy these next few weeks coming up with these new regulations coming. Where can people follow along with everything that you've got going on in the email world?
Find me on LinkedIn. I mean, I probably won't be too busy. My emails are already accessible. I've done the work. But yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. I show up on podcasts and webinars and all the things. So follow me there.
She's going to be all busy. All right, Marianne, you're next. Where can people follow along with everything you got going on, or if they need to follow along with Mailjet stuff?
Same, only on LinkedIn for sure. I will be busy because we continue to improve the platform, so it will take a while. But yeah, I'm available only on LinkedIn, and I'm also conducting the webinar with other folks. So the French one, so I'm speaking French, easier for me. But yeah, you can follow me during those webinars as well.
Love it. Good to see you, Megan. And moving down the line here, my partner in email, Natalie. Where can the people follow along with everything you got going on, Mailgun related, deliverability related? What you got going on?
No worries. Well, for me, a big shocker, you can find me on LinkedIn. So feel free to send me a message, add me, any of that good stuff. Just, kind of do say where you heard of me, because otherwise I'll be like, oh, and then I might decline it. I'll be honest. But I chat about email there sometimes. Where I chat about email more is on Deliverability Academy. Thomas and I are co-hosts for the Deliverability Academy. We have a new episode coming up June 18th. Am I right, Thomas?
Yep,
Yes.
June 18th.
Yeah. So if deliverability is a new concept to you, even if it's an old concept to you, join us. It's a very kind of relaxed forum where we talk about deliverability. We bring on guest speakers and all that good stuff. We just kicked it off. But yeah, that is where you will usually find me. But if I go to any sort of in-person events for email or things like that, I'll share that on my LinkedIn. So
Love
I'll
it,
catch
love
you
it.
there.
And you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. I'm the only Thomas T-Bird Canarian out there. The rest are imitators. Make sure you also follow along with our podcast, Email's Not Dead. Just dropped a link for that. We do have an episode featuring our own Megan Bushhausen talking about EAA and all the amazing resources. And we've got a tons of resources actually in that episode as well. So make sure you check that out. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where we have to say goodbye, unfortunately, but we have to go about our days. Marion gets to end her day, and the rest of us have to, keep
Go
chugging
back to
along
work.
here. So,
I can say bonsoir.
yeah, lucky. But awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, don't forget, June 28th, it's coming. That's when the EAA goes live. Don't forget that. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye,
Good
y'all.
one.